ever wonder why you're the one always there for everyone else, but no one's there for you? Why you're always the first to help, but the last to be chosen? People come to you when they need something, but disappear when you need something. You're not unlucky. You're not too nice. You're being used. And unless you understand how, you'll keep giving everything and getting nothing in return. This is the brutal truth. People don't value effort. They value leverage. And if you don't have it, you'll always be a tool in someone else's game. Let's be real. You think you're being kind, supportive, generous. You call it being a good person. But what you're really doing is volunteering for your own invisibility. And the scary part? Most people don't even realize they're doing it. You say yes when you want to say no. You offer help before anyone asks. You pick up the slack, carry the burden, stay quiet, because deep down you believe this: if I keep being useful, eventually someone will return the favor. But they don't, because the truth is brutal. People don't remember what's always available. They remember what's scarce, what's rare, what makes them work to earn it. And here's the cost of your generosity. You become the background, reliable, predictable, safe, a permanent option. And permanent options are taken for granted. Think about it. You're always the one staying late, helping, fixing, listening. But when it's time for promotions, they promote someone else. You're always the one supporting friends, but when you're in crisis, it's silent. You're always the one in the relationship who gives, forgives, and compromises, but they still walk away, or worse, walk over you. Why? Because you trained them to expect everything and question nothing. When you don't ask for respect, when you never demand effort in return, people assume they don't need to give you anything. And when you finally hit your limit, when you say, "I can't keep doing this," they don't apologize. They don't reflect. They say, "You changed." Because to them, you were never a person. You were a service. And services aren't supposed to say no. But here's the twist. It's not just them. It's you. You've been using helpfulness as a survival strategy because you thought being useful was the only way to be wanted, to be needed. So you gave and gave and gave until you disappeared behind everything you offered. This is not generosity, it's self-erasure. And the longer you live like this, the harder it becomes to recognize your own worth without other people's approval. This is why you're being used, not because you're not enough, but because you never made anyone earn you. And now the question becomes, how do you break this? How do you undo years, maybe decades, of people-pleasing, overgiving, and emotional self-sacrifice? That's where the first law of power begins, and that's what we're going to dismantle in the next section. Here's the part that hurts. You think being needed makes you important. That if you're always there to help, support, and fix, people will keep you around. They do, but not for the reason you think. They keep you around because you're convenient, because you're available, because you say yes when others say, "Not my problem."
and you assume, wrongly, that their dependence equals respect.
But in psychology, there's a name for this behavior: codependent servitude. And in dark psychology, there's something worse: utility-based attachment. It means people stay close to you only because you're useful, not because they admire you, not because they see you, because you solve their problems. And that's all. Think about the patterns. They come to you with drama, but vanish when it's your turn. They praise your empathy, but never mirror it. They say you're so strong, but never ask if you're okay. That's not love. That's manipulation hidden under flattery. And here's how it works. Most manipulators don't control with anger. They control with compliments. They say things like, "You're always the one I can count on. No one else understands me like you. You're just built different." And you feel good, because deep down you've been starving for significance. So when someone finally makes you feel needed, you grab on. But what you don't realize is that you're now hooked, not to a relationship, but to a role. And roles can be replaced. That's why the moment you stop playing that role, they turn cold, distant, confused. Because your value to them wasn't your soul, it was your function. And here's the harsh psychological truth. The person who needs to be needed is the easiest to use. Because when someone targets your identity, not your time, not your money, but your sense of self-worth, they own you without ever raising their voice. You keep giving, not because they asked, but because you think you have to. That's the trap. You're not stuck because you're weak. You're stuck because you're trained. You were conditioned to believe your worth is measured in how much you do for others. So now you're overextending yourself just to feel safe. That's not generosity. That's fear in disguise. And manipulators, real ones, can smell that fear. They don't have to push. You come willingly. You offer access. You offer energy. You offer forgiveness again and again, even when you know better. Because you're afraid that if you stop giving, they'll stop staying. And here's the truth. If someone only stays because you make their life easier, you're not in a relationship. You're in a transaction. That's the mindset Law 1, Never Outshine the Master, was written to counter. It's not just about being too bright. It's about learning when not to shine until it matters. So now, let's shift gears. Let's go deeper into what Law 1 really teaches and how it changes the game when you stop being predictable and start being powerful. Robert Greene opens the 48 Laws of Power with something that sounds simple. Law 1, Never outshine the master. Most people hear this and think it only applies to corporate politics or kings and queens. But you don't need a crown to have a master. You just need someone who holds power over you, emotionally, financially, socially. It could be your boss, your parent, your partner, even your closest friend. Anyone who feels like they can take something from you, validation, belonging, approval,
can play the role of master. And when you give too much, too early, too often, you trigger something dangerous: insecurity. People may like your value, but they'll hate what it makes them feel. They'll feel exposed, inferior, replaceable. And when you make someone feel replaceable before they're readied, they don't elevate you, they eliminate you. Here's the twist most people miss. Outshining doesn't mean being better. It means making someone else feel lesser. And that's often not about your words. It's about how you make them feel when you're around. You solve problems faster than your boss? You're a threat. You carry more emotional intelligence than your partner? You're intimidating. You give more in a friendship than they ever could? You're guilt in human form. You think you're building connection. They're preparing distance. Because power hates imbalance. And if you don't manage the emotional balance of power, even unintentionally, you'll find yourself resented, not respected. You'll be the person people quietly root against, the one they smile at while sharpening the knife behind their back. This is why Law 1 exists. It teaches you to delay the full reveal of your power, to keep your value controlled, measured, and strategic. Because in the real world, competence is not a shield. It's often a target. So how do you play it smart? You don't compete with arrogance. You let it blind itself. You don't fight for the spotlight. You let others drown in it. You play the fool when necessary, not to degrade yourself, but to disarm those who think they're smarter. Because the person they underestimate is the one they never see coming. That's the real power, calculated invisibility. While they posture, you position. While they chase validation, you collect leverage. You're not being passive, you're playing long. And when the time is right, you make the move that no one expected, because no one thought you were capable of it. That's not luck. That's Law 1 in full force. Let's make this painfully clear. This isn't just theory. This happens every day. Let me show you what Law 1 looks like in the real world and how not understanding it has cost people everything. Scenario 1. The overachieving employee. You join a new company. You're smart. You work hard. You solve problems your manager couldn't even see. Soon, people are skipping the chain of command and coming to you directly. You think, this is great. I'm being recognized. But here's what your boss is thinking. They're going to take my place. Instead of mentorship, they give you silence. Instead of promotions, they stall. And behind closed doors, they start chipping away at your reputation. Because they feel threatened. Why? Because you outshined the master. And now you're a risk. These are not exceptions. They're patterns. And unless you understand what Law 1 protects you from, you'll keep repeating them, expecting different results. You'll keep giving more and getting less. Because you never realized it's not about being less valuable. It's about making your value harder to access. That's how you earn respect, not just attention. That's how you control perception, not just hope for appreciation. And that's what we'll dive into next. Because now that you understand the danger of being too good, it's time to learn the tactics that let you stay in the game without getting played. You've spent your whole life being visible. You help, you fix, you prove. But if visibility hasn't earned you respect yet, maybe it's time to try something different. Not by disappearing in defeat, but by withdrawing with intention. This isn't passivity, it's strategy. Here's what strategic invisibility looks like. 1. Stop explaining yourself. The more you explain, the more you invite judgment. People don't trust what you say. They trust what you enforce. So the next time someone questions your boundary, your time, or your change in behavior, say this: I'm just doing what's best for me right now. And leave it there. No justification, no defense, no debate. Because the moment you explain, you put your power up for negotiation. 2. Delay the yes. The fastest way to be used is to be instantly agreeable. So, break that habit. Every time someone asks something of you, especially if they usually expect a yes, say this: let me get back to you. Let them sit with uncertainty. Let them wonder. You're retraining the social dynamic. Availability equals value until it becomes assumption. Make your yes feel earned again. 3. Start saying no calmly. This is your superpower now. Because a calm, emotional no hits harder than anger ever could. You're not rejecting them. You're signaling that you don't need their approval to exist. And that changes everything. When manipulators realize they no longer have emotional leverage over you, they panic, they shift, they reveal themselves, which is exactly what you want. 4. Set silent boundaries. Don't announce your transformation. Just change your patterns. If you're always texting first, stop. If you always say, I'm free anytime, stop. If you feel like someone drains you, take space without explanation. Silence forces them to feel the gap. It's not punishment, it's information. Let them experience what your absence feels like. It's the only way they'll ever understand your value. 5. Redefine what power looks like. Power isn't always loud. It isn't dominance, control, or intimidation. True power is subtle. It's psychological. It's the ability to remain unbothered in a world that feeds off your reaction. Strategic invisibility is not vanishing. It's preserving leverage. It's withholding access. It's knowing that every interaction is a transaction, and now you charge a price. And here's the beautiful twist. The moment you start disappearing strategically, the right people will step up. The wrong ones will fall away. And you'll finally stop being used, not because you yelled louder, but because you became unpredictable, unreadable, and untouchable. And that is where real power begins. Here's what you need to know. You're not broken. You just weren't taught power literacy. You were taught to be helpful, but not strategic. You were taught to be kind, but not respected. The difference between a servant and a leader is not talent. It's perception. Start making them earn your presence. Stop trying to prove anything. Your energy is not free. It's currency. And from today on, you raise your price. The reason you're always being used is because you haven't decided to be dangerous yet. Not cruel, not manipulative, just someone who can walk away, someone who knows their value. That's the kind of person people stop using. That's the kind of person people start fearing and respecting. This is Law 1. And if you learn how to use it, you'll never be used again. Subscribe. Next episode, we'll expose the psychology of silence and how to make them fear crossing you without ever raising your voice. This is the game they never taught you to play, and you're just getting started.